describe. They say it makes perfect sense there. Listen as they try to explain this mystery, and they grapple for words. Sometimes it sounds strange, but listen.
I saw a light, and it was getting closer and closer, and it's a living light. And it's the brightest thing you can imagine, but I could look at it. It's perfect. It's blemishless. That light took up my entire field of vision. It was infinite in its scope, but it was alive, and that light was love. And Jesus took me directly into the light. And the next thing I knew, I found myself sitting on God's lap. When I was sitting on God's lap, Jesus was there too, except he wasn't a separate person. Don't ask me to explain that. I can't explain how God can be a light and God can be a man and God can be love. I can't explain it. I can't. But that's what I experienced. When I first saw Jesus, he was human size. But when I was sitting on his lap, he was big. And he was wearing a robe, a white robe. But his robe was infinitely big. In that moment, he was all at once my best friend and my dad. It was like seeing the person who's most familiar and most beloved to you in the entire world, and there he is. It's like, where have you been? And I buried my face against his chest, and I put my arms around him, and he had his arms around me, and I never, ever wanted to leave. I didn't want to leave. I just wanted to sit there forever and be held by God.
So these three people were holding hands, and they were praying for somebody. I believe it was for somebody in this world. Jesus had never left my side, but as I looked at them, I saw Jesus standing in the center of them. Jesus could be in more than one place, in multiple places, at the same time being with me. Jesus was saying things audibly. Initially, I thought that he was speaking to me both without words and speaking to me audibly. And because Jesus and the Holy Spirit were one, I came to realize he was speaking to me both ways, audibly and without words. But the times that I heard him without words, that was the Holy Spirit. And I realized at that time, Jesus was my friend, my companion, but my most intimate relationship was through the Holy Spirit, who didn't appear in a physical form. I can only explain it as the wind, this comforting wind. So Jesus, during the course of our walk, he said, I'm going to take you to the throne room. And there was kind of a rolling sound in the background, like would be a storm. And I realized there was an intensity of where he was taking me. I was being brought to the Father. And the kinship that I felt with Jesus and the intimacy that I felt with the Holy Spirit now is being taken to a new place in this simpatico relationship that they had, both separate and together in that dynamic which defies explanation.
When I spoke to Jesus, and again, his communication was mostly thought to thought, I knew I was talking to the Holy Spirit, and I knew I was talking to the Father at the same time. I just knew it. He is one. You know, it's not one like we think is one, you know, in the sense that sometimes we count one and that's it. I looked at him as being one. And some people say in the Trinity, you know, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. No one thinks that way there. They're just one. You know, even trying to answer this question for you, it's hard because I'm trying to go and grab something and put it in the earthly terms, but in heaven, the question doesn't exist. When I got there, the Holy Spirit was on the inside of me. He stayed with me. Jesus said, I'll never leave you nor forsake you. When I'm here on the planet, I feel like he's still with me that close. I came to understand it wasn't about a feeling. When he said he entered in, he's there with you, whether you feel it or not. You know, we got to go by what he said, not what we think or feel. And so I get to tell people, he's very close to you. How much closer can he get? He's on the inside of you.
Before I went to the seal glass, this is when I said, can I share all this? And he said, yes, but people are going to think you're crazy. And I said, I don't care. I need to let everybody know. Father, I'll be back with many. I said, I'll promise you. That was my promise. And I turn around, and as I turn around, he says, you're awesome. And that stuck with me. And I go, what? He speaks like this? God the Father said, you're awesome.